So after another very long gap, I've decided to try and upload another couple of videos. I will try and make it more regular. I want to make it more regular, just life keeps getting in the way. So today, it's a bit late, but I'm going to do my Q1 wrap up. So in my Q1 TBR, I said I'm going to change to doing quarterly TBRs because it's easier to stick to. It's not. I did not stick to my TBR very well at all. And now because I've left it so long, I'm struggling to remember what my thoughts were on the books that I did read. So going forward, I'm still going to do a quarterly TBR, but I'm going to try and do a monthly wrap up so I can keep my thoughts straight. But anyway, this time is going to be a wrap up for January, February, March. I read a total of 16 books in that time period between ebooks, audiobooks and physical. And let's get into it. So the first book that I finished this year, I started at the end of last year, finished it this year, was Nosferatu by Joe Hill. I don't have a physical copy, so I'll just put a photo up here. Joe Hill, if you didn't know, is Stephen King's son, and he's decided to follow on in his father's footsteps, becoming an author. This is the first book of his I've read, and I absolutely loved it. I gave it 4 stars because I do think it was a bit long. It didn't have to be as long as it was, but it was brilliant. It's kind of a different take on a vampire book. Now, I read Salem's Lot by Stephen King, and I prefer his son's book with the vampire take. Basically, I don't even know how to explain this. The main POV is a young girl at the start, and you follow her life. She has a few traumatic experiences with a nemesis called Charlie Max. It culminates in a big Christmas disaster. Because this book is based at Christmas, well, around a Christmas theme. I have done a terrible job at explaining what this book's about, but trust me, it's great and you should read it. And I do recommend reading it about Christmas time, because it gives you that kind of creepy Christmas horror feel, and it is amazing. But yeah, Nosferatu by Joe Hill was the first book I finished this year, and it was 4 stars. So the second book I finished this year is still possibly my favourite of the year I've read so far. I have a spoiler gush about it. That was like one of the last videos I posted. But the second book is Colour Magic by Terry Pratchett. Now I'm not going to say much about this because I've got that gush video, but 5 stars, absolutely incredible. One of my favourite books ever now, and I suppose I should give it. That's spoilery, so I'll give a quick spoiler free. You follow a wizard, a very inept wizard, who is given the task of showing a tourist around Dusk World. And that's all I'm going to say. You need to read it to find out, and it is amazing. I gave it 5 stars, favourite book this year so far. Dusk World is incredible. Go read it. So the third book that I read was a sequel. It is God's Grave by J. Kristoff, which is book 2 in the Nevernight trilogy cycle. There's only 3 books, so I'm going to say trilogy. So because it's the middle book, I can't really say much because it would give away big spoilers for the first book. But basically it carries on from the first book, and it's more of a Roman gladiator setting in this book, and I wasn't really into it. I mean, I love the Roman history, I love gladiator themed things, absolutely love the movie Gladiator, but this, I don't know, I just didn't feel like it fitted right. But I still gave it 4 stars because the overall, how the plot moved along in the trilogy, I thought was great. Still love the characters, still love the way J. Kristoff writes, and I did mean to go straight into the third book because the way that book ends is, oh my god, it is such a good ending. But I've put it off again. I'm really bad at this. I never just finish series. So I'm going to get to book 3 very soon, but this one was amazing. I know a lot of people give Nevernight a bit of a hard time nowadays. I don't know why. I mean, it's not going to be for everyone, but a kick-ass female assassin? I mean, it's pretty good. So the next book, I really don't know why I left it so long to read this series. I absolutely loved this book. And it is Assassin's Apprentice by Robin Hobb. So this book, do not judge it on the title. Yes, it does have some things to do with assassins, but for the most part, no. It's a very small part of the story. The main part is you follow this young boy called Fitz, who basically is a royal bastard. His mother's died, and he's been put on the doorstep of the castle. And that's basically how it starts. And you're going through with him throughout the younger years of his life, and how he deals with being partially royal in a world that does not reward you for being partially royal. So it's a very heartbreaking book at some points. It's also a very hopeful book at some points, and oh my god, I love the animal companions. And this book apparently doesn't even have the best one in the series yet. I've not met the animal companion that everyone loves, but I love the animal companions in this book. So I gave this book 5 stars. I've seen it be a bit mixed. Some people absolutely love it. Some people really don't like it. I mean, I guess I can see why. It's quite a bleak book, but in my opinion, it was done brilliantly, and I can't wait to get to book 2. Also, if you do have the means, I highly recommend getting the illustrated editions, because the artwork in it is just incredible, and it really enhances the experience. So next up, went back into Dusk World with book 2, The Light Fantastic. So this one is a direct continuation from The Colour of Magic. It follows the same characters, and like I say, I loved it again. I didn't love it quite as much as Colour of Magic, but Rincewind and the other wizards and Two Flower, it's just incredible, guys. You really need to read Dusk World. I can't believe I slept on it so long. I've had Colour Magic on my Kindle for about a decade, and I didn't read it till this year. Don't be the same as me, guys. Just read it. It's incredible. I gave this one 4 stars. The plot wasn't quite on the same level as Colour Magic for me, but it was still an absolutely amazing book. But next up, I started my foray into Glenn Cook's The Black Company. So this is the second omnibus. I don't have the first physical copy. I listened to the first 3 books in audiobook. First book wasn't great. I gave it 3 stars. I didn't love the plot. The chapters were too long, but I quite liked the style it was told. So the way the book is written, basically there's an analyst, so a historian of this mercenary band called the Black Company, and you're basically reading his account of their adventures or of their jobs. And the first book wasn't great. I did like the characters. It set up the rest of the series quite well, but it was quite hard to get through. It was like hour-long chapters at 1.5 speed, so it's really long chapters, and it threw the pacing off really badly. I ended up giving this one 3 stars, but I did carry on. Well, I've got the second omnibus, so you can tell I carried on, and I liked the other 2 books much better. The second one, the plot was incredible. I loved the plot of the second one. I gave that one 4 stars, and the third one I also gave 4 stars. I think the third one is my favourite of the 3, and it kind of closes out the first chronicle, basically. Yeah. So yeah, I don't think the Black Company would be for everyone, But if you're going to try it, I'd give it the first 3 books. Which means if you're going to buy it physically anyway, they do these omnibuses, and the first omnibus has the first 3 books. So I'd recommend, if you want to try it, get that, read the first 3, and if you like them, then continue. Don't judge it on the first one alone. I'm glad I didn't, because I've enjoyed it so far. So next up was another favourite of the year so far. And again, guys, if you can afford the illustrated editions, get them. Ocean at the End of the Lane by Neil Gaiman. Now the story itself is amazing, but with the artwork, this is probably one of my favourite illustrated editions that I have. Try and find the... So the book opens with a guy going back to where he grew up for a funeral, I think. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's a funeral. And we get to hear about his crazy childhood adventures. I don't want to say anything because it's a short book, and I think it's better if you don't know anything about it. I fell in love with this book because I went in completely blind. I had no idea what it was about. I read it in like 2 sittings. I'm not sure, my one's over 300 pages, but I think just the text book is like 170 or something, so it is a short book. It's incredible, guys. The themes, the writing style, read this book, it's amazing. Even if you've tried other Neil Gaiman books and you don't like them, try this one, because it's incredible. Next up, Red Rising by Pierce Brown. So this book has been on my radar for a while, but it was a read along over on Alan's channel, the Library of Alexandria, that pushed me to read it, and I'm so thankful that I read this. Some people are a bit lukewarm on the first book, and they say the rest of the series gets much better. I loved the first book. I gave it 4 stars. I loved the plot, loved the characters. Yes, the start. I loved the start. I can see why you wouldn't love the start. I'm not going to say anything. Basically, the inciting incident, to use Alan's words, of the whole plot of the series, I'm guessing, is in the first couple of chapters. I think reading it is better. I felt I enjoyed the story more and connected with the characters more because I read it, even though it's like one of the first things that happens. So I won't say anything, but the pacing, the action, this book is incredible. I loved it. Sci-fi, some people say Hunger Games theme, kind of like the Hunger Games. Kinda, but not really. Basically big war games. And it's incredible, guys. The society is based on the Romans and the throwbacks that, I mean, I'm not that big into history. I do like Roman history, but I'm not that big into it. And even I could pick up on them, and they were great. I'm currently halfway through the 2nd book in the series, and it's incredible. You should read The Red Rising. It's amazing. Next up was another audiobook for me, Alice in Wonderland. I seen that Jodie Comer, I don't watch the series, my wife does, so I'm trying to think. The series is called Killing Eve. I think her character is called Villain L. She narrates it, and that's the reason why I got the audiobook, because I've seen her amazing accent she does in that show, and it was amazing. The book, I'm not a big fan of Alice in Wonderland. I rated this 3 stars, and that's because of the story. It's a 5-star performance by Jodie Comer. If you do like Alice in Wonderland, I highly recommend trying this audiobook. Everyone knows the story of Alice in Wonderland. I'm not going to go into it, but yeah, 3 stars for the story, 5 stars for the performance. And next up, I eventually finished Gardens of the Moon by Steven Erikson, the first book of Malazan, Book of the Fallen. So first off, I need to say, mass market paperbacks. I love the feel of reading a mass market paperback, but his name rubbed off. I mean, what's that all about? But yeah, a lot of people don't like mass market paperbacks. I actually quite liked that. It was a nice change from the big massive books you normally read. But story wise, I gave it 4 stars. I didn't love it, didn't hate it, liked it more than I didn't. The first part of the book, the first 170 pages I think, was incredible. I absolutely loved it. And the last 150 pages roughly was one of the best endings of a book I think I've read. And it's the first in the series. It was incredible. But that middle bit, it was too long, and some parts of it I really just didn't care about. But I will say, after reading Gardens of the Moon, I have no idea how to explain it. I can see why people struggle. Military fantasy, and a lot of crazy shit happens. But you should read it. I know there's been a lot of controversy, I'm not going to say anything about that. I've read the first book, I'm going to be reading the second book very soon. I've changed what I thought. Basically I said I was going to give it the first 2, but after, like, this is a read along on Mike's channel, Mike's Book Reviews, and seeing what everyone's saying, like the Malazan veterans, they say to give it the first 3 books, because a lot of people find the third book is their favourite. So I did say I was going to give it the first 2, but I'm going to give it the first 3. I've already bought the third one on Kindle, so I'll give it a shot. But yeah, Gardens of the Moon, I give it 4 stars. Definitely worth the read, but it's not my favourite. So the next 2 books were the books 2 and 3 in the Black Company series. I've already talked about them, gave them both 4 stars. I like them a lot more than the first book. So the first book is The Black Company, second book is Shadows Linger, and the third book is The White Rose. White Rose is my favourite, but Shadows Linger was very close. I did like both of them. So next up, back to Dusk World again with Equal Rights. So the last 2 Dusk World books I talked about, Colour Magic, Light Fantastic, they are the first 2 books in the Wizards series, the Unseen University series. This is the first book in the Witches series. It was okay. I didn't think it was as funny. I didn't think a lot happened in this book. But Granny Weatherwax as a character was incredible. The basic plot: old wizard dies, power is meant to go to a young boy to become a wizard. Mix up happens, goes to a young girl, not meant to. That's kind of the back and forth funny part of the story. And she's trained as a witch instead, and Granny Weatherwax is her mentor. And Granny Weatherwax is great. The young girl-esque is an okay character. I can see her getting much better in later books. But, like I said, the story was just okay. It wasn't as funny as the other books. I gave this one 3 stars. It's probably my least favourite Dusk World book so far, but by no means is it a bad book. It's still a good book. A lot of people love this one. It just wasn't my favourite. Guys, I've finally done it. I finally finished Mistborn. Hero of Ages, Book 3, Mistborn, Year 1. Guys, I don't know why I slept on this for so long. I was meant to read this about a year ago, and it just kept getting pushed off and pushed off and pushed off. But I absolutely loved this book. 5 stars. What an ending to a series. Absolutely loved it. Because it's the third book in a trilogy, I can't really say anything about the story, but the characters were great, plot was great. Oh, that ending, man, it was just amazing. I was worried I wasn't going to like it. It was incredible. I can't wait to read more Sanderson. I think I'm going to go back and try Elantris and then Warbreaker. And then I don't know, Mistborn Era 2 or Stormlight. I don't know, I'll figure that out later. But anyway, Mistborn Era 1, amazing, you should read it. So, the last physical book that I read in this quarter was, of course, back to Dusk World with book 4, Mort. So this is another different series in Dusk World. This is the first book in the Death series. Death as a character, I think, is in pretty much all the Dusk World books, but this series follows him specifically and characters surrounding him. This one, Death needs an apprentice. So he gets Mort as an apprentice. Mort asks for a day off, and Death doesn't know what a day off is. But then eventually he decides to take a day off and all hell breaks loose. It's amazing. Absolutely love this. Gave it 4 stars. It was kind of on a par with The Light Fantastic for me. I still think I like Colour Magic best. But yeah. Guys, if you aren't reading Discworld yet, you need to be reading Discworld. It's amazing. I don't know a single person who doesn't like it. Last but not least, certainly not least, I finished this quarter out with an audiobook, A Study in Scarlet by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. The first Sherlock Holmes book. And it's incredible. I'd never read them before. I'd seen the movies, I've seen the programmes, but the books are just amazing. I mean, even though you know what's going to happen, I was hooked. And like pretty much right in the middle of this book, you think it's done and you've just got a completely different story going on, and the way it comes together in the end is just incredible. Like, you don't need to recommend Sherlock Holmes. Everyone knows you should read Sherlock Holmes. Read Sherlock Holmes. So that's it from me, guys. That is my Q1 wrap up. Like I said, I will be doing them monthly from now on, hopefully. The next video I put out will be my Q2 TBR, and then from there on I'll do the monthly wrap-ups. But that's it from me. If you've read any of these books, if you want to talk about any of them, just leave a comment down below. But until next time, enjoy the journey.